potentially listening. I'm sorry that I didn't have this recording. I'm not going to go back and repeat myself, but I will say this, that guardians have a relentless commitment to ask the difficult questions. They will always seek to honor the past as teams look toward the future. Guardians really respect how we got to where we are. So guardians can go, hey, this is great that we have some new ideas and what is, but let's not forget about all the people and all the hard work that went into getting to where we are today. They really recognize sort of founders of organizations, people and the stories that had come before, or even honestly, even the context of buildings. When a building is changing, it's like, hey, can we save something to remember like the hard work and the effort that people put into getting to where we are today? Guardians will always remember those things, and they will bring that forward. They honor the past very well. They personally accept the commitment to deliver projects on time and on budget. So if you are working as a guardian in an organization, if you're creating, say you guys are, as a community, you're going, all right, we're going to do an event, they're really going to think through the details of like, okay, what's our budget? What can we afford? Can we actually make this happen? Because we have other voices in the room that have like this lofty idea of what they want to do, but I'm going to be thinking through whether practically can we make that happen. I don't want to get halfway and realize like this didn't happen. I use this example all the time of a guardian. Guardians, it's like some voices might be like, look at that island over there. Let's all get in the boat and let's go over there. Come on, everybody, let's go. And you're like, okay, yeah, let's jump in. And the guardian's looking going, there's a bunch of holes in the boat and you guys only have one oar. Like, why, like, can the boat actually make it across? I'm not jumping in that boat with you. Like, that thing's not only going to make it halfway and everybody's going to drown. Guardians care deeply about organizational integrity, and they want to make sure that they have the right things in place to actually be able to achieve the things that they're trying to do. So they're not afraid of asking the hard questions to make sure that everything's been thought through well. And so they're committed to that. And they're going to ask the difficult questions because they take full responsibility. And when a guardian takes responsibility of something, they are going to follow it to its end. And so that's why they ask the questions, because once they commit to doing something, once a guardian says, hey, I'm on board, I'll take responsibility for this, they're going to do it. But they're going to ask the hard questions ahead of time because they want to make sure that it's been thought through well so that they're not going to get blindsided by something. So they're going to always ask those kind of questions. They're naturally risk averse. Asking, is it worth the risk and is it worth the investment? So they tend to hesitate sometimes with change. They tend to hesitate when somebody has a lofty idea because they go, this may be true, this may be fun, this sounds like a great idea, but is it worth it? Because if we do this, we have to count the cost of what it means to other things. We add this program, what programs are we going to have to drop? If we do this, how many people are going to be affected? They tend to be less people-oriented and more logical and processing around the functionality of something. Can we actually make this happen? So they're going to ask those questions, and they can be a little bit risk-averse and slow the process down because they want to make sure that everybody's going to be okay and the organizational integrity is still going to be intact and that we're going to actually get to the island. They want to make sure that we're going to be able to get there. They respect values, or they respect and value logic, order, systems, and repeatable processes. So they tend to be more logical in their thinking. They love logic and systems because it makes sense to them. Things add up. It's like, if things add up, then I'm on board. But I need to be able to wrap my mind around it. They're less moved by feelings and emotion. They really process things logically and think through, okay, is this practical? Does this make sense? Is this true? That's the way the guardian operates. They also are always going to try to make things better within the context of systems. So they're always trying to go, okay, is this the best system? Do we have the best way of doing this? And they'll always be kind of fine-tuning and making sure that we have the right schedule, that we have the right way to do things. They'll repeat things over and over again and really think through, okay, I'm going to fine-tune this because I think this could be more efficient this way or this could be better this way. That's the way that guardians operate. Their desire for truth and right decisions can sometimes override the feelings of others. So because guardians are able to separate their emotions and feelings from practical reality of things, sometimes they can come off as a little bit prickly. Because everybody else is going, well, no, but it's, like everybody's excited about this. It's okay that people are excited about it, but it's not like, We're not going to make it to the island. This is silly. Like, I want to be there too. It looks awesome over there, but we're not going to make it. Like, they really, they think more logically, and even when things feel very emotional, very hard, they're able to separate those things. I'm working with a business right now, and they're having to make some big staffing changes. And one of the guys that's one of the owners is a guardian. And he's able to go, even though everybody loves this guy came in and said, I want a new job title, I want a pay raise, you guys can't live without me, et cetera, et cetera. And in his mind, he goes, yeah, I like him too, but the reality is, like, when I start thinking about this, this isn't gonna work. Like, we can't afford to pay this guy more. He probably doesn't even deserve his job title, and so he can separate the feelings of how he cares about this guy for what's gonna help the organization in the long run, and so he's able to say, sorry, man, we gotta let you go. It's just not gonna work. So they're able to separate those feelings sometimes and emotions from what's logical and makes sense, and they're able to they can compartmentalize it. They think more logically that way, and so they're able to separate those things. They desire to get what's correct. And so therefore, sometimes, guardian is honestly one of the hardest voices to live into if you're a first voice guardian, because sometimes you feel like you're putting a wet blanket on people's ideas. You know, sometimes guardians are like, yeah, everybody's excited, and I'm going to be the one that has to say this isn't going to work or we can't do that. And everybody's like, dude, you're always like throwing the wet blanket on it. You're always like making sure that we're following the rules, or that's not, you know. And so sometimes guardians, but it's because they deeply care so much about actually the organization, the people, that they want to make sure that we actually get to the island, that sometimes they have to tell us when it's like, no, I don't mind if we go to the island, but let's patch these holes up first and get an extra oar, and then we can go. But they sometimes can slow a process down because they want to ask those kind of questions. So that's our guardians. All right, so rate this voice, start thinking through it, rate your voice, what you think it is, and then share with somebody that's close to you. Abby, what'd you rate that voice? Green? That's you. Yeah. You recognize what's there, you like the structure, let's stick with the structure. Makes sense. All right, 20 more seconds. All right. Just out of curiosity, how many people would think maybe guardian might be their first voice? Anyone? 1, 2, maybe 3. Okay. Guardians are what? Guardians are 30% of our population are first voice guardians. Guardians, similar to how nurturers, out of that 43% of nurturers, 70% are women. Guardians, out of that 30%, 70% usually are men. So men often take that guardian role. They're more logical. They don't know how to connect to their feelings or emotions, and so they tend to be more rational and logical in the way, and system-oriented in the way that they view the world. All right, that's our guardians. Next up, our connectors. Champion of relational networks, internal collaboration, and effective communication. You will always, when we think about voice, you will always hear your connectors. They're like Tigger. They love to jump in. They're very excited. They tell a lot of stories. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Like you will always hear your connectors because they get very excited about things and they want to talk and they want you to hear what their ideas are. They love to share their ideas. Connectors love to share ideas. They are persuasive and inspirational communicators, rallying people to causes and things that they believe in. So they're always going to be, it almost in a lot of sense, it feels like a connector is always trying to sell something. They just get so excited and so passionate about things that it feels like, man, like you're really coming on strong. Like you really love this thing. It feels like you're really trying to sell it to me. They can't help it. When they want to connect you, they want to connect with heart first. So that's why they tell stories. They want to try to get your emotions and feelings involved because they want to connect with your heart. That is very much a connector. They're incredibly resourceful. Whatever we need, I can get it, and I have a source. Connectors are big-time networkers. Your connectors are the people they have tons of Instagram friends, tons of Facebook friends. Social media has been a boon for connectors because they can have that many more people in their network, that many more people. And so when somebody needs something, even if they don't have it, they're like, oh, wait, but I know someone. Down the road, there's this guy, right? I ran into this girl the other day, and she works at a coffee shop. And she was telling me about this thing that she does, and maybe we can ask her to help us out. Connectors have a huge network, and they're always able to connect people to other people or bring in other people as a resource. They love to be resourceful, and they love to collect people and the things that people do so they can bring them in and have them help out. They have the capacity to maintain a large number of relationships. This is like very much connector. They have tons of friends. They have lots of relationships, and they get so passionate about it. They love to connect people, and they love. Where did I get? I feel like I got lost here. Maintain a large number of relationships. They know how to connect people and their aspirations. So they kind of, because they know people, they will identify when they're talking with you. They'll try to find some common ground, and then they want to be able to dive in and talk about that thing because they love relationship and connection so much that they'll find something you're interested in, and then they just want to talk about it. Like, oh, you like, whatever it might be. You like, whatever, T-Swizzle, Taylor Swift. You're like, oh, yeah, I heard that one album. Like, I'm not a huge fan, but, I watched this thing the other day about her. They'll figure out a way to make that connection and have a relationship. I don't know is this anybody's Taylor Swift pick? It's yours, isn't it? No, I'm just kidding. It's all right. I'm just joking. But connectors will always try to find a way to connect with you and have some sort of relational connection. They need appreciation and credit for making key connections. Are you aware of what I've done? And this is really interesting about a connector. If you're a connector, this will resonate with you. Connectors, because they're such networkers and they have all those resources of people, their contribution is often, hey, I know someone that can help us with this. Or I introduced these two people to each other. So it's like, hey, Brittany, I wanted to introduce you to my friend Kim. You guys have so much in common. I really think you guys would get along really great, and I would love for you guys to meet. And they're texting and like, here's your numbers. I talked to you the other day. This is Kim. I want to introduce you guys, and then, but it's not good enough for a connector just to leave it there. The connector will check in later and go, hey, Brittany, did you ever get together with Kim? And Kim's like, oh, yes, I did, and she is awesome. Like, we had such a great conversation. We went out for coffee. We're actually going to get together next week, and we're going to go do whatever. And then the connector's still listening. Okay, keep going. She's like, yeah, thank you, and moves on. And the connector's like, ugh, okay. Then the connector goes to Kim. Kim, hey, they already know that she already connected with Brittany. Hey, Kim, did you ever get together with Brittany? Oh, yes, we did it. We had such a great time. It's so fun. We're actually going to go, on this trip together next week. Or we're going to do this thing. And then the connector hears the words that they long to hear. Thank you so much for introducing me to that person. If you hadn't introduced me to them, I would never have been able to go on this trip and meet this new friend. We will always value you for connecting us together. That will fill a connector's tank. They walk away and they just float away. They know, like, this is my life's achievement. Like, they want to be thanked and appreciated for the contribution they bring through their network. Very much connector. Their people-pleasing tendencies mean that they often struggle to bring effective challenge. So because they like people so much and they don't like to have rifts, they want to be friends with everybody. So sometimes it's really hard for a connector to bring appropriate challenge when something happens because they're afraid of what it might do to their system, their network, their people, their influence that they have as that sort of Tigger in the room. They're afraid of what might happen to them if they confront somebody, so sometimes they hold back because they're afraid of they don't know how to bring that sort of effective challenge that actually makes a difference. Sometimes it's more of a comment about a challenge, but it's not an actual challenge. They also kind of, it's almost like they drop bits of poison. So if things don't go well for a connector, rather than actually being upfront and saying, hey, what you said actually really hurt my feelings, or it really made me really angry in that meeting, and I wanted to talk to you about it, they don't bring it up that way. Often what they do is if somebody really frustrates them or annoys them, it's like they drop little bits of poison. They kind of can be a little bit gossipy sometimes and go, oh, it's kind of like if, say I'm working for someone and they're like, hey, I know you know this guy, Dave. We're thinking about hiring Dave for the company. And the connector go, oh, hiring Dave, oh, that's brave. Again, not direct, not clear. He's going, what do you mean? What do you mean brave? Like, why is it brave? What do you know that I don't know? Connectors tend to kind of do that. They tend to drop little bits of poison around people if they feel like they've been hurt or there's something, that's going on there. They often struggle to hear and engage fully with critical feedback. So typically, connectors take things pretty personally. So if somebody critiques an idea that they had, they try to sell an idea, and somebody goes, yeah, we can't do that. The group goes, I don't really think they keep trying to sell it. And if people go, yeah, we're not going to go that direction, they can kind of take it personally. So connectors tend to take things a little personally. They're deep feelers, and they can take things personally when people don't like their ideas or don't give them good feedback. All right, rate your connector voice. Green with a shade of yellow, yellow shade of green, red, or yellow shade of red, red. All right. Connectors are 11% of our population. They are relational networks, internal collaboration, and effective communication. So they're 11% of our population. Again, they're the second loudest voice. You will always hear your connectors. It's probably, the reality is that that's probably all we need for connectors because it will feel like there's more connectors than there actually are, but there tend to be only 11% of our population. If you didn't guess, my first voice is connector. I am a connector naturally, for good or for bad. That's just what I am. I am a connector. All right, our pioneers. Pioneers are champion of strategic vision, results, and problem solving. Pioneers, they approach life with an anything is possible attitude. They define their identity and worth through their achievements and their capacity to do the things that nobody thinks is possible. So they will take things and they will go for it when other people go, there's no way we can do that, or, oh, that's going to be too hard. Your pioneers going, what are you talking about? We can achieve that. They hate to be held back. They want to achieve things and they want to bring the group with them. So they're very, very, very driven, which is a great thing. Anything is possible for them. So they approach that anything is possible attitude. Visioning and shaping a scalable future is always the highest priority for them. So again, visioning and shaping a scalable future, scalable meaning we can grow, we can get this thing bigger, it's always the highest priority for them. How do we win? How do we get better? The pioneer's going to be the one that's, if they're, say they run an organization, they're going, we're going to build these foundations. I would guess, now he hasn't taken the test, so I don't know. But my guess would be, I think Rick is probably a pioneer. So, you'll see a foundation being built. You're like, what's that field? He's already got a vision for what it could be. Last time I was in Kauai, and of course, I don't know that this is Rick's voice, but I think I know that this is his voice. Last time I was here 3 years ago, I came to visit the church to see Dane and Rick and hang out, and Rick's like, hey, you got to come back in a couple of years because we are going to start a Bible school here, and we're going to do this thing, and there's the property up here, and he showed me where they wanted to build where you guys are living now, and he's always thinking in the future. He's always thinking through. There's no end to the ideas that he has of where we can get. He can achieve it, and he's like, we can build this. When people are going, what are we going to do with that? Why are you building this? He goes, just wait and see. Just wait and see. That's a pioneer. They're always visioning and shaping a scalable future. Their strategic and military thinking makes them incredibly effective at aligning people, systems, and resources. They love to think strategy. So pioneers are always in their mind. They're very future-oriented in the way that they think, and they're always strategically thinking about things. How can we make this better? How can we align our people and our resources to make this happen? COVID. During COVID, if I think about that if Rick, the ideas that they came up with, how can we help our community as people are having to, school is out, kids can't go to school, what can we do as a church? They're always thinking, what resources can we bring, what people can we bring in, how can we do that? They're always thinking through that. That's strategically minded. They're like chess players. They're always thinking of what 2 or 3 moves ahead, right? They're always thinking, how can we align our pieces because we want to win, we want to achieve, and we want to accomplish what we're trying to do. Winning is a massive driver. They hate to give up and will drive their team long after others would have given up. They never like giving up. So they're the ones, honestly, in a team where everybody's tired. It's like, hey, I don't know if we can do this. It just feels like they're the ones who will rally everybody and say, no, we can do this, you guys. Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. Follow me, we can do it. That's a pioneer. They're going to rally people towards something. And they have a really loud voice, and so people hear them and go, oh, he thinks we can do it. I don't have the confidence. I don't think we can get there. But if that person thinks we can do it, I'm willing to give it a shot. Pioneers can pull people alongside them because of their natural confidence and their self-belief in their team to think we can achieve this. They hate losing. They want to win. It's a massive driver for them. They are powerful communicators, using logic and rationality to provide an attractive and compelling vision of the future. So they really have an amazing way of articulating what they're trying to say because they've so thoroughly thought through all the details of how it's going to work out, their strategy. They've been thinking long before other people have. They get together creatives, they brainstorm ideas together because they're both very future-oriented, but they can put together a way of saying it that's very compelling and makes people go, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Like what you just said really, really made sense to me. Different than sometimes a creative, where creative tries to say it and everybody goes, that was a little bit confusing and I didn't exactly follow you. Pioneers were always, they'll thought through what they're going to say, they're very polished, and they're able to say things really, really clearly. Okay, so that's a pioneer. They're powerful, they're very, very logical and rational, but they can make it attractive and compelling for people when they speak. The immature pioneer can often appear very arrogant and me-focused agenda. Now again, the word here is immature. So an immature pioneer often can feel like, man, that person, all they think about is themselves, that it's their way or the highway. They're going to be loud, and they're going to be strong, and they're going to bring a lot of force. And it's like all they ever think about is themselves. And so the reality is that sometimes they can come across as arrogant and very me-focused. Sometimes even prideful. It's like this, sometimes I think pioneers get unfairly labeled narcissists because like all they think about is themselves and their ideas, and they want everybody to do their thing. That can sometimes be what an immature pioneer comes across like. And they can quickly dismiss the contributions of those they don't believe to be competent or experienced. So if a pioneer thinks, I see what you're trying to do here, but I don't think you actually know what you're talking about because I've thought about this, like they can come on really strong and they can dismiss your idea. A lot of times people feel drowned out, their ideas don't feel valued by a pioneer because a pioneer is so forceful and has thought through things so well, and sometimes don't ask for other people's opinions, except for sometimes the guardians, because they want to make sure, can we afford this? Can we do this? But they haven't necessarily listened to all the voices in the room, and so sometimes people feel dismissed or they don't feel valued by the pioneer, especially if it's an immature pioneer. They don't feel like their contributions really matter to them, especially if that pioneer feels like somebody isn't competent or doesn't have the experience to actually lead a group. Okay? Does that make sense? All right, I want you to rate your pioneer voice. Talk with somebody next to you. All right. Our pioneers are 7% of our population. Strategic vision, results focused, and problem solving. Again, it may feel like there's more pioneers in the world than there are. Probably better there's not more than 7% because there's such a strong personality, such a strong presence. That 7% is probably all we need. But we love our pioneers because they really do get us. And when we get into hard times, when there's crisis, there's nobody better to have at the helm than somebody with pioneer because they believe that we can make it through, and they will bring a group with them and help them achieve it and make it through something that may be very, very, very difficult. All right. So what I want you to do now, I want you to put it all together. So turn the page. I want you to look back over your 5 voices in each different category, and I want you to do the best that you can to give your first voice, second voice, third voice, fourth voice, and fifth voice. So especially trying to find that foundational voice, which one, when you add them up, is like, oh, that's definitely probably my foundational voice, my first voice. And then try to figure out what's your second voice, your third voice, fourth voice, and then your fifth voice, which is like, this one's really harder for me to access. I'm not naturally competent and operate in this way. I don't think this way. It doesn't mean you don't have any of those aspects in you, or that you're able to do some of those things. It just doesn't come as naturally as your first voice would. Okay? Take a few minutes to start thinking about that. If you need help, let me know. Pioneer first voice? Just kidding. You got it? Let me see. Anybody feel stuck? What'd you get? My exact voiceover.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, yours or?
My exact voiceover. That's exactly what I am. Yeah.
Sweet. Oh, project this for.
Creative connector. Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yours is good too.
Nurture connector. Yep.
I think I don't know. All of ours as guardians.
There's an actual assessment that you can take online, and all three of yours, that's probably how they would actually line up. Yep. Yep.
I think I'm confused what guardian and connector were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could tell. I could see your nonverbals. You were like, like, that's me, that's me, that's me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's the order of things.
Yep. Good. All right. Everybody feel like they got their 5 voices? We're getting there. Put your voices together. You got them? All right. What we're going to do right now is I want to talk through some what we call leadership insights. And when I say leadership insights, these are learning opportunities for you and growth opportunities. So you're going to read these statements, and I want you to kind of, especially when you think about your first voice, second voice, particularly first and second voice, what we would typically is first voice is like, oh, that one naturally comes. Your second voice shows up very often. It actually really supports, and it's kind of a filter that your second voice is filtered through your first voice, but it's still very, very strong. So some of you probably were having a hard time figuring out, like, is this my first or my second voice? Because often your second voice goes through the filter of your first voice, but your first voice will still show up more. Third voice very much still shows up. You can access it. It's just not as dominant as the other ones. Fourth voice is usually what we call your blind spot. So the fourth voice is often that place that you probably think you're better at it than you actually are. But that's what we would call your blind spot. And then your fifth voice obviously is one that's harder to access, and you're like, I don't usually show up this way. It doesn't sound like me. Nobody would ever say that this is me. So that's your second voice. So in this exercise, what we're going to do, I want you to choose 2 of these that you need to work on the most. Okay, so as you're listening to this, and as we're walking through these, I want you to think through, okay, when I read these, this one, man, this is me. Like, I need to work on this. I know that this is true about me. What I would like for you to do, if I can have some volunteers, is I would like a volunteer from each of the voices, one person from each that feels like this is my first voice. If you would be willing to come up here, and I'd like you to read through these, so do we have a nurturer that would be, I know this is harder for nurturers, but do we have a nurturer that would be willing to come up and read these for us? It's hardest to get the nurturers up here. Oh, there we go. Come on. Here we go. All right. Gracie. Yep. So I want you to stand up here. I want you to read these, but this is, and everybody listen, because this is important. I want you to read them, but I want you to personalize it. So when it says like rather than when you speak, when I speak, I represent. Does that make sense? So try to personalize them as much as possible. And then I want you to all be listening, especially you nurturers, and I want you to think through what are the 2 strongest ones for you that you feel like, oh, wow, I resonate with that. And then I want you to share with us what you think your 2 are. Okay?
Okay, when I speak and represent 43% of people, my views and opinions truly matter.
Yep, you can keep going.
Okay. People see me as a highly skilled professional. It's time I start to believe that. People choose me to lead. Wait, yes. People choose me to lead because they believe in me. Act knowing that I belong. Learn to challenge the views of other voices in my team when you believe they are wrong. Embrace change and help lead it. Don't be passive and function as a victim of it. People trust my judgment and genuinely want to hear my opinion. Use that as a springboard for influence. I can speak the truth kindly. When people challenge my views and opinions, they are trying to help. It's not a personal attack. Pioneers are not as insensitive and arrogant as I think. They just see the world differently to me.
Okay. Which two do you think, for you, resonate the most that you're like, I probably could work on these?
Probably the first one.
Okay, read the two again and for us in that personal.
Okay. When I speak, I represent 43% of people. My views and opinions truly matter. And what was the second one? Okay. People trust my judgment and genuinely want to hear my opinion. Use that as a springboard for influence. I can speak the truth kindly.
Great. Let's give her a hand because it's hard for her to feel. Thank you. All right. So, nurturers, or if this is your second voice, just put a star next to the two that you go, oh man, I know that this is me and I need to work on this, okay? All right. Next up, do we have a creative first voice in the room that would be willing to come and read for us? Okay, come on up.
Learn to celebrate the win even if the results wasn't quite as perfect as I hoped. When members of my team critique my vision and ask for the details, they are genuinely trying to help. Don't play safe. Give myself permission to think outside the box. It's okay to be wrong sometimes. It comes with the territory of creativity and imagination. What I see is as an eminent opportunity or threat may actually be further away than I think. Financial realities are important. Good enough may have to be good enough sometimes. People are not deliberately ignoring my ideas. It's hard to truly hear a creative. I don't have to prove my worth to my teammates. Relax and trust the unique contribution you bring. And for me, let's see. Number 4, it's okay to be wrong sometimes. It comes with the territory of creativity and imagination. And another one, number 7, people are not deliberately ignoring my ideas. It's hard to truly hear a creative.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Again, that's the hardest. Our two quietest voices. It's hard to get up in front of a bunch of people and advocate for yourself and even be vulnerable. This is where I need to work. I recognize this, some of my belief in myself. True statement there. All right, our guardian. Do we have a guardian that would be willing to come up and read this for us? Yeah, Ireland, come up.
How I communicate is important. Volume and sensitivity.
Try to bring up your volume a little bit so they can hear you.
It's possible for me to be right and wrong at the same time. Learn to value the future-oriented voices. They drive innovation and progress. Sometimes goalposts move on projects, and it's not anyone's fault. Learning to compromise is a healthy part of team life. Be careful. Constantly driving myself and my team will eventually lead to burnout and resentment. Take time to invest in your key relationships today. You are not defined by I am not defined by task achievement alone. My team knows I am competent, but do they know I care? Networking events and social media platforms are not a waste of time. My 2 are 5. Be careful. Constantly drive yourself, and the team will eventually lead
Okay,
to burnout.
I'm going to pull you back. I want you to, don't just read it like you own it, okay?
Be careful. Constantly driving myself and my team will eventually lead to burnout and resentment. And 6 is my other one. Take time to invest in my key relationships today. I am not defined by task achievement.
Awesome, thank you. Good job. And trust me, it's hard to be up here. I've done this, and all of a sudden someone starts reading these, and they just burst into tears. Because the reality is these are deep felt for a lot of us, and we just haven't been able to articulate that's how we feel. But inside, when we say it out loud sometimes, it's like, oh my goodness, this is exactly how I feel inside. I haven't been able to say it in these kind of words, but it's true about me. All right. Do we have a connector that's willing to come up and share? All right, come on up.
When people reject my idea, it's not as personal as it sometimes feels. Hinting at my frustrations with teammates does not guarantee anyone has truly heard me. People will critique my ideas, try and avoid becoming overly defensive too soon. It's okay to be me. When I believe something passionately, never be afraid to share it. When I speak, complete my sentences and stay focused on one idea at a time. Be consistent in my external communication. Avoid the temptation to sell to individuals ahead of the meeting. Be intentional. Take time to think through how I can create a culture where other voices can bring their best. Be patient with those whose due diligence process is rigorous, painful, and time-consuming. I would have to say that for me, it's 1 and 3. When people reject my idea, it's not as personal as it sometimes feels. And people will critique my ideas, try and avoid becoming overly defensive too soon.
Great. Thank you. I wish that we could have, I wish we had the time to have all of you come up here and do this, because the reality is, as you hear people share, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, that is totally that person. You will see that's the value of valuing each other in a community where we see how we're wired, and all of a sudden it opens up a window into going, oh my goodness, that's why this person is this way. Because God created us that way. He gives us our personalities, He gave it to us naturally, and He helps us grow in this way. And so, again, it's great to understand your own voice, but when you can really understand how the voices work, it helps you know each other and understand each other better. Again, we did the Zoom yesterday. All these dynamics were happening in the room yesterday. Of course, I could see a lot of them, and I was already like kind of going, I wonder if this person is this voice. I wonder if this person is this voice. Because you can see those things, and it helps us understand each other better and why we do what we do, why we respond, and why we behave the way that we behave. All right, final one. Do we have a pioneer that's willing to come up and read? All right. Ezra, come on up.
Beware of the intellectual. Okay, how do you say that word?
Intellectual superiority.
Superiority complex. I don't have all the best ideas. Sometimes I am actually wrong. Take time to truly hear the views and opinions of others on the team. Beware of the power of my voice. In a moment of frustration, you can do a lot of damage to others. Only 7% of people view the world through my eyes. Remember, winning is not the driving motivation for most people. My team knows that I am competent, but they are not convinced I know anything about them or their life outside work. Find and nurture and ask them to mentor me in how they see the world. Take time each day to encourage someone who doesn't deserve it. If I am wrong, fight my initial instinct to justify my decision and deflect blame. I will earn respect and influence if I own up to my mistakes. I would definitely say 3, beware of the power of my voice. In a moment of frustration, you can do a lot of damage to others.
All right, read it slower. I want you to own it.
Be aware of the power of my voice. In a moment of frustration, I can do a lot of damage to others. And 8. If I am wrong, fight my initial instinct to justify my decision and deflect blame. You will earn a lot of respect and influence if you own up to my mistakes. If I own up to my mistakes.
It's good. Awesome. All right, I want to make sure that you just take the time to make sure that, especially if this is your first or second voice, make sure you put a star or something going, these are areas that I want to grow in. We're probably not going to spend, I'm not going to spend a lot of class time having you go through the personal development plan, but I want you just to take time on your own. If you get a chance to look back over this, go, what are those areas that I really do want to work on, that I recognize that these are growth areas for me, and I want you to write those down and then actually think through, okay, when am I going to start trying to work on this? Is there somebody that can hold me accountable that I'm going to share this with? Say, hey, if you see me doing this, I want to get better at this. I don't want to, I don't want to blast people out of the water if I get defensive. So if you hear me doing that, can you call me out and talk to me? Nurturers, have somebody come alongside you and say, hey, we talk on the side, but I don't share in the group. If you know that I've got an idea and I'm not sharing, challenge me, encourage me to put my voice in the room so that everybody can hear my perspective, because your perspective is extremely valuable. We need to hear your voices. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the power of your voice, because each voice also has what's called a weapon system. And so we're going to jump in and talk about that. Do you have an announcement first?
Real quick announcement. I have good news and bad news. Which you want first? Bad news. The Zodiac boat only has 28 seats. Good news, they dropped the price to $80. So if you want to go, the board's going to be sitting on that back table right there. Make sure to put your name down, okay? All of
seats is all of us.
that's 28, but I mean, you still got to cop up to $80. I'm not going to pay for it. So, but if you bail on this, that means that a staff person gets to go. Otherwise, it's just all you. Okay. And I heard there's a great white whale swimming around out there. So
Awesome.
So if you want to go, it's Monday the 6th. We'll start collecting money for you on this by the 17th. We'll get all your money. So rob a bank by then or whatever. Okay. So Devin's signing this. You want to go? There we go.
All right, everybody be back by 10 or 11:10.